Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your mellow, chilled out host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos. It seems to be not my last few weeks of recording and keeping shows because this is the second time for me recording this episode, and so pretty much I had a full show. It was done. I was editing. And then my antivirus decided to update, and when it updated, for some reason, my normal failsafe backup in Audacity did not kick in. And when Audacity booted back up, it cleared out all of the temporary files, thus ensuring that my previous episode does not exist. So, it's after Thanksgiving dinner. I'm a little tired, and I'm re-recording the show. So, yeah, a little bit sick still have the cold, so you're probably going to detect that in the voice just a tad. Also, big up to Will Holland because he gave me some information about today's episode that I am going to sort of present to you all. So, yay. All right. So, today's conversation is going to be about Avengers vs. the X-Men, and with the time left, I am going to comment on tent poles and how tent poles are going to work in the new meta. So, yay. All right. So, pie goodness. My mom made pecan pie using all those good forbidden things that you shouldn't eat when you're on a diet. And she also made sweet potato pie, which for some folks think that is the equivalent to pumpkin pie. And to those people, I say the nay. You haven't had a good sweet potato pie. You can tell the difference between a good sweet potato pie and a good pumpkin pie, because a good sweet potato pie is way better than your best pumpkin pie. So, anyway, that's about it as antagonistic as I'm going to get in this episode. So anyway, for those who didn't know, and this is according to Will Holland, who was lucky enough to get both of his starters for $20 a piece, that each starter has a different map. And so you're not stuck with the same map. Now, this is good for, hey, for you people that are actually going to get both. For the rest of us, who most likely won't get both, you're sort of stuck at a disadvantage because I don't know what those maps can look like. You can go and try to find them. That shouldn't be too hard. But you have to sort of pick along with the figures you want. Do you want that map? So that's something to think about there. All right. So pretty much how's today going to work? It's going to be real simple. I am going to tell you my picks for what figures are good for AVX and why they're good and why you should play them and why you shouldn't play the other stuff. And I'm going to try to keep it rather brief and as respectful as I possibly can. Okay? Now note there are some elements that you're going to start picking up on of it being a little derogatory. But bear in mind that there's some stuff in here that's a little bit BS. All right, so let's get started. Iron Man. I'm going to look at number 2E Iron Man, the Experience Dial. Why are we looking at the Experience Dial? Well, purely because it's 100 points. And 150 points for what we're paying isn't worth it for Iron Man on the vet. We get Running Shot, we get Indomitable, which is inflating the cost of his dial greatly. Because if he didn't have Indomitable, he would definitely be like a 80 to 75 point dial for what we see here. Also, the cool thing is that mainly this Iron Man sets up as a positional shooter. He even though he has Running Shot, you might as well just ignore that. Your main goal is to just use RCE at the cheapness, and that's pretty much it. The trait enhanced repulsors, all of Iron Man's attacks generate knockback, extends his defensiveness by positioning. You can either A, position characters away from you when generating knockback on your running shot or your stationary range combat expert attack, or you can use it to knock a character forward or closer to another character on your force, which is quite essential for the game of heroclix now, because positioning matters once again. Okay, so that's a big thing to look at. Also, we can look at the special power, inventing on the fly. Once per turn, Iron Man can use outwit or perplex. It says outwit or perplex, not outwit and perplex. So that gives you some flexibility, definitely on those turns where he has 2 tokens and he's on those clicks, that you can sort of decide what you're going to do with him as a support piece in those turns. The main reason that he is considered as a valuable piece is that for 100 points, you're able to build a lot of stuff around him for an Avengers team. And with the new set, Invincible Iron Man, it's not that hard to get armor figures or figures that do something with armor. So right there, that's a key lookout. Oh man, pecan pie. Karo syrup. All right, next up is Thor, and we're looking at Vet Thor. And the beautiful thing about Vet Thor is, we're getting 8 clicks, which is good. Next thing is we're getting 4 clicks of Impervious. We're getting 3 clicks of Energy Explosion. We get 3 clicks of Running Shot, but those two of those clicks are on our first 2 clicks on Thor's on Thor's dial. The other thing that we can look at is Call the Storm and Tear Open the Sky. Thor can use Super Strength, which is great. When Thor targets and hits more than one opposing character with an attack, targets of the attack are dealt penetrating damage. Now, this is why we're paying for a 200-point Thor and not like 150-point Thor. And because this trait is very useful with Energy Explosion and not so useful with Pulse Wave, considering that all your Pulse Wave attacks are penetrating if you're hitting multiple targets. It's a lot easier to hit your main target and have Energy Explosion splash and hit to be able to target 2 different targets and then having that Energy Explosion splash go off, and then technically have 4 characters take take penetrating damage. So that in and of itself is very nice and allows for a lot of control. Once you start going to Pulse Wave, the trait really just doesn't matter, and it's not that good. So you're overcosted. Yes, you could say, oh, I still have Super Strength, and that is true. But do you see any charge on this dial? No. Super Strength, in my opinion, is something on this character where you start off, you pick up an object, you move out, and then when you're doing whatever else you're doing, you just drop the object underneath you so that you can get +1 against ranged. That's it. That's really it. Okay, we're going to move on down the line, and we are going to look at a character that is pretty much full of a lot of controversy, and some may say that this is the best version of this character. I'm not so sure. It's Spider-Man, except we're not going to look at the vet, we're going to look at the experienced, because I feel for that extra 25 points, even though WizKids was wonderful enough to give us 2 more clicks, I'm not really feeling it. So we're going to look at the experienced version and raise all those questions of why we're doing that. First off is charge, precision strike, toughness, and perplex. So we start off the gate as a support figure and also attacker, unlike the 125-point dial, which you start off with shape change. Then you also have that trait as whatever a spider can. When Spider-Man is the target of a ranged combat attack, he can use super senses but evades attacks on results of 4 through 6. And you might say, well, yeah, Dark Logos, you have that super cool super senses during ranged attacks. It won't help you during melee attacks. And he's at a mid-range sort of position, and he can easily get splatted by a melee attacker. And I'm not going to disagree with that. But the best thing about Spider-Man is he has the ability to support, dance around the field, and then when time comes, you can TK him in there to charge and precision strike in on a figure, or take those two precision strike shots from range, or even tie someone up for a little bit because he can take a decent hit. So that's really what you're thinking about. And also, one thing you need to look at is that if you're going against X-Men, you're dealing with Cyclops with precision strike. I mean, not with precision strike, with sharpshooter. So forcing Cyclops to actually do a melee attack is very important. And this Spider-Man does that. He's probably one of the best characters to tie up Cyclops. So, on past the general AVX goodness, we can look at some of the key elements that allows him to sort of stay in the game. Having the Avengers team ability and then also Spider-Man team ability means that he's going to be your wonderful wild card that's going to enable you to do all sorts of goodness. So don't forget about that. All right. More going down. We're going to look at Experienced Cyclops. And we're going to look at Experienced Cyclops for one big reason, is that paying 50 more points for those 2 clicks is absurd. For the 2 clicks that were offered with Cyclops is absurd. And I don't think it's really practical. Just being honest. Going on is I can still see the dream. They didn't think this through. They just really didn't think this through. And it has improved targeting, ignores blocking terrain when a ranged combat attack resolves. Any blocking terrain along its line of fire to the target is destroyed. May make ranged combat attacks when adjacent to an opposing character. Now the issue is that under improved targeting is that you would still be able to use outwit and outwit through walls, and technically you would be able to use leadership through a wall. So if there's like a thin wall line, technically the other square is adjacent. You're also adjacent to the wall. Now, there might be a ruling that says, hey, no, you're just adjacent to the wall. But okay, whatever. But for targeting purposes, I wonder if leadership does target. So I'm just throwing that out there. But mainly with the outwit is pretty much just that you can use outwit without blowing up terrain, and outwit from safety, which is ridiculous. So right there, having that up front makes the dial worth it. And you might say, well, I have it up front on the 150 point dial as well. And I'm like, okay, well, that is true. But just for how much you're paying, you can't fill in more around them. That it makes it really tough to fill in more around them. The other thing is, after you get going, you have also ongoing optic blast. Cyclops can use force blast and running shot. When he uses running shot after actions resolve, he can use force blast as a free action. And I think that's probably one of the better elements overall. Just being able to have force blast as a free action, and then to be able to do a normal shot. To be able to run up, point blank, shoot somebody and force blast them. So I think that's pretty cool. Then you go on to let's put the world back on track. And again, I mentioned before that leadership and outwit. And when he uses leadership, adjacent characters with a shared keyword are considered to have a lower point value. And when we look at Cyclops, it becomes really awesome, because that means for all of your X-Men, for paying 100 points, no matter where or what time zone they were created, he can be their leader to allow the X-Men machine to go on. And then you combine him with a couple other different Cyclopses, and you have a pretty strong X-Men team. So is this the strongest Cyclops ever? No. But it is a pretty strong Cyclops. Next up, we're looking at Experienced Colossus, and the main reason we're looking at Experienced Colossus coming in at 125 points is that he gives us everything we need up front. So forget his mantle of the Juggernaut. It really just doesn't matter too much. It's the I believe in the X-Men. Colossus can use charge and plasticity. If he has 2 action tokens, adjacent friendly characters that can use the X-Men team ability can use that team ability as a free action. So that means that you can do super healings as a free action, which is awesome. And Steel Skin X-Men, Colossus can use Defend and Impervious. So I eventually feel with Colossus, he's one of those figures that in the future, he's going to be something because of Defend sharing. Right now, he's not all that awesome, but I do believe in the future he will be the hero of, what was that one song from Firefly? Oh, crap, I ruined the joke now. Oh, well. But I do think he will be one of the heroes of the X-Men team. Also, if you look at what he has on the second and third click, the sidestep, the invincibility, and the empower, he's pretty much pinked out. His powers are there for breast cancer awareness. But anyway, overall, I think that it's okay. I think the rest of his dial is nice, and once you get toward the end of his dial where he gets that charge and he gets his Steel Skin X-Man again, I don't think that's bad. I don't think that you need to try to build for clicks 4 and 5, but they're not bad. So that one is definitely on my list, and I say he's more an investment in the future than an actual gotta get him right now. Next up, I'm going to do something that I haven't done with the rest of the characters, is endorse both of their versions, and that's Magic. The Vet and the Experienced are both really strong, and I'm going to say something that I think is a big problem. WizKids spent all this time rebalancing teleportation, and they release a character that breaks teleportation again. And I hate to say it, I think Magic will have to go on the watch list. And I think really probably for the next 2 or 3 sets, we're going to have some more watch list stuff, just for the pure fact that they couldn't retroactively fix all the broke, stupid stuff that they did. So they're going to have to be like, oh, okay. Errata this. We're sorry. We had all this other stuff done, and it didn't get fixed in time before it went to print. And if WizKids is honest and says, and warns us, hey, there are some figures that we sent to print before all this watch list shenanigans that we had to now fix. We play tested all that stuff in-house, realized how bad we jacked up, and now we're going to let you know at launch it's already fixed. You have a day 1 patch. Boom. I think that would be the wise thing to do. Now, will WizKids do that? I don't think so, but I do think it would be the wise thing to do. So that way people would know, like, hey, during Sealed, like, no, this guy isn't that broke. His power is actually this. But who knows? Who knows? So let's look at why she's broken. Teleportation disc. Give Magic a power action. Choose an adjacent character. Place Magic in any square within range. Place the chosen character in any adjacent square. And roll a d6. On a result of 1 through 4, the chosen character can't be given a non-free action until your next turn. Now, why is this an issue? Well, let's see. First off, it says within range. Well, guess what, folks? Range can be manipulated. Her max range can be 8. That's like TK, except you could do it through walls and stuff and ignore characters and line of fire. Why, yes, it is. And this isn't a double power action? Why, no, it is not a double power action. Oh, so they done effed up, didn't they? I would think so. Okay, and, minus the melodrama, just how much shield that we have floating around. I mean, free shield, boom, up the values. And you're wherever you want to be. I just got reminded of an old Visa commercial. It's like it's everywhere you want to be. They might as well call Magic Visa, because the world doesn't take American Spiral. Okay. Anyway, I've beaten Belasco. Magic deals penetrating damage to characters with mystical keyword. That's completely worthless. It really just inflates her points because they had to. They were like, oh, what do we do? She's too good and too cheap. Let's give her power against mystical people. That'll stop mystical. That's never stopped mystical. Mystical is still broken. Hey, let's fight Ghost Rider with magic. No. Ghost Rider is like, I eat your soul, little child. What's left of it. All right, moving on. Let's look at the actual dial from the vet with those first two clicks, and then we're going to go on and to break down why the experience is still broke strong. Having those first two clicks of prob is really nice. I mean, really nice. The pulse wave is really good. Energy shield deflection is enough defense, but not too much. It allows you to sort of keep your distance and stay a little safe. When we start going down to the experience level dial, if we start there, it's not bad. It's not as great as the vet, but for 75 points, we probably have one of the best support characters in the game. And I'm going to have to rewind back to Scarlet Witch because I accidentally skipped over her. But here's why. For our wildcard abuse teams, we're paying 75 points for both Mystics and X-Men team ability. NTK, a teleportation ghetto TK that we can sort of use now and then. And then on top of that, if we look on clicks 2 and 3, we get barrier and outwit. And she's able to be carried. So, yeah. By far, one of the strongest support pieces in the game. And you can even say like, oh, look, Hammer's falling. Look, she becomes awesome. Yeah. And her damage values aren't that great. And that's the one advantage that the vet does have. The vet does get those wonderful 3 damage values. But really, the further along the line we look, we realize, like, man, her overall cost at 75 points is really good, really cost efficient, and gives you a lot of bang for your buck. And I don't see a real problem playing her at either point level. So there's a lot going on there. So just sit there and meditate, think on it, pause it, and come back. Okay, you're back. All right, great. Now we're going to go back up to Scarlet Witch. We're going to look at 100-point Scarlet Witch, and I'm going to do something that I wasn't initially planning on doing. Is that I'm just going to do sort of like a step-by-step comparison between her and the experience magic, and sort of show you why she's a bit way too strong for her own good. Actually, I'll look against the vet magic. That's the best thing to do. Okay, the experienced Scarlet Witch is way better than the vet Scarlet Witch, because the vet Scarlet Witch, you're just paying too much for all that inflation. This is supposed to be like, oh look, magical power offensive Scarlet Witch, she's awesome. Oh look, blah blah blah. She's not that good. There are way more powerful female Avengers that you can have on your team than this Scarlet Witch. But she does come out as, again, Scarlet Witch is broken. Look through all of HeroClix and you can probably find 2 Scarlet Witches that are not good. Probably 2. And that's really pushing it, because the one from Wolverine and X-Men really wasn't that good. And I don't count the duos since it's Scarlet Witch and somebody else. Okay, but anyway, going on. The phasing, the precision strike, which I have no clue where that comes from. I guess they didn't want to give her psychic blast. Her little special power on defense, which you really don't need multiple clicks of, is mystical wards. Scarlet Witch can use energy shield deflection. Okay, great. When a Scarlet Witch is hit with an attack, the roll is ignored and the attack must roll again. This new roll can't be re-rolled or ignored. Okay, so it says this new roll can't be re-rolled or ignored. It doesn't say this power, so you can pulse way past this. So why is it that it's better to have this on the experience and not having this on the vet? Well, pure and simple is, if you get hit, you're going to get knocked past all those clicks of it anyway. So why pay for it? Just why pay for it? It's no reason. You're not getting much more It's like, oh, look, Scarlet Witch still has a 10 attack. Oh, Scarlet Witch has basic prob, not the cool stuff that she gets later, and she has stealth. That's worse. You get the trait, you get the mystical wards, and you get casting spells on click 1 on the experience. So why even look at the other version? That's dumb. So going on, you can see the strength of mystical wards and how really 2 more clicks of it won't do you any good. Casting spells. Scarlet Witch can use perplex, probability control, and support. Which, and this is the thing, when you look at it, she negates 3 different rolls right there, and she has an 8 range. You're paying she's on the level of mega support. Forget, like I was saying, like, oh look, this support is like a secondary attacker and does that and has a shenanigan. Forget all that. She is mega support. All right, at 100 points. She has Mystics and Avengers TA. I mean Avengers TA, and she has access to all the Avengers ATAs. She gets willpower and precision strike, and then her worst clicks are her last 2 clicks. Okay, but let's really look at that. We have support with a 10 attack value. Is that Donald Blake good? No, but it's still good. We have probability control and perplex with an 8 range. That beats most of your cheap attackers and most of your cheap support pieces. So if we really look at this, if we try to put everything together, we get a cheap Donald Blake. So that's 33 points. Then we get cheap prob, and we'll just say Jinx, so that's like 35. So we're at 68, and I can't think of cheap perplex right now, which is sad because that really just tells you the state of the meta. It's like like most people are like, oh yeah, of course you got to know the cheapest perplex, but now you really don't. Anyway, let's say again. I'm going to go off the top of the dome. Say our cheapest perplex is 35. Yeah, let's just say it's 35. So when we put all of that simple math together, what do we end up with? We're paying what, 103? Yeah, 60. Yeah, 103. And that still doesn't mean, I mean, you still don't have guaranteed access to Mystics and Avengers TA, or even access to adding on to her cost with a Avengers ATA. Now again, yeah, Donald Blake has a better attack value, but I know for sure Jinx does not have a better range, and whoever else I have for Perplex does not definitely have an 8 range on the Perplex and being that cheap. So this Scarlet Witch again comes in and says, I stomp on everything you knew about the meta with high heels. And she just, I'm so glad she does not have TK. Like if she had TK on that her first 100-point click, she would by far be the most broken clicks ever existed in heroclix. And she's a sharpshooter, which makes no sense to me. So yeah. So anyway, last but not least is Cable, and I'm bringing up Cable because overall he's fun, and he brings some different elements that allows you to sort of mess with your opponent as the game progresses. First off is Save Hope. Adjacent friendly characters named Hope Summers modifies their defense values by +1, if not already modified by this effect. And this is one of the key elements that I think is good because Hope Summers is already really broken. In my opinion, I just think that we all haven't figured out how broken she is, which is a bit disheartening at this stage. I think I wish a lot of people realized how strong she was, but oh well. Going on, you start off with toughness and outwit, which is not bad. And you also get a special ability called Time Slide. Cable can use phasing, teleport, and shape change, which sort of just gives you some added more flexibility. So you got to look at it more that you're paying for a 19 range potential outwit for your first few clicks. That's really how you have to look at it. That you can get that outwit anywhere you need to, and then possibly make an attack later. Move on, then you start getting that perplex, and then you get that there's always plan B. Cable can use duo attack ability. When he does during the second attack, you can use precision strike, which pretty much guarantees that your second attack, if it deals damage, it will hit. So that's really good, definitely if you deal with a character and all of a sudden they turn to super senses. The other thing that comes up on his dials, that end dial regen, and make sure you keep track of this, folks. He does have Earthbound on his last click, which means that you cannot just be like, oh, haphazardly push him when he's going to regen. No, you can't do that. You lose your Indomitable. Anyway, also coming after all you is almost completely worthless outside of the AVX format. In normal meta, it's not going to really matter too often. So, I mean, so that's pretty much like not worth thinking about too much. So overall, I hope you all start to understand why I picked what I picked, and I'm going to start getting into some broke things about this set as a whole and give you my overall opinions. My overall opinions is I think that this is a money grab. Also, I think that WizKids has proved that they don't care about the meta if they need to get paid. I'm going to say that again very precisely. I don't think WizKids or game design cares about the meta if they are going to get paid. If there is something questionable about the product, they will break meta design and they will put things into the meta that are not good. Okay, and they'll bypass all that. Hey man, we're rebalancing things to make it more, fun and interactive and dynamic. And and whenever they have any level of anxiety, if they're going to get whatever amount of BS that they have planning through, they will go ahead and break their own rules. So let's get into why I'm saying that. Exhibit A, so much 7 and 8 range with 2 targets. The dual targets, I'm not so much ticked off about that. It's the fact of the damage values with that and also the range values. Okay, so you remember me always bringing up, what is the golden ratio? You should know it by now. It's 11-4, 11 attack, 4 damage. And that's pretty much the golden ratio right now. In the future, it can be anything. But here's the thing. Like, let's look at Thor. Thor has 2 targets. He has a 12 attack, 5 damage. He's abiding in the same percentage of the golden ratio. All right, just add 1 to both numbers, you end up with Thor's stats. Okay, he has 2 targets. Then he has a trait that makes sure that when you hit, that damage is penetrating. So you're giving him pretty much ghetto psychic blast the entire dial. So technically, when you're paying for Thor, you're not paying for energy explosion and pulse wave. You're actually paying for energy explosion, pulse wave, and situational psychic blast and precision strike. That's really what you're paying for. Okay, the next thing is when you look at the ranges, what have our ranges been reduced to? 5, 6, lots of 5s and 6s. Okay, so then out of the gate we get these 7s and 8s in this set. And why is that? Because WizKids wants you to go and play this event, and they need to have a reason for you to play the event. Now, no. I know someone's going to say, well, Dark Logos, do you want them to give us crap product and then have to play through this? No, I don't. But I do want them to uphold their end. Okay? If 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 range is supposed to get really scarce in clicks, then you can't hand it out like candy in these starters. You really can't. That's not fair. And you would say, well, Dark Logos, what if this is their only main entry into the game? There is so much older product out there you can get. It's not funny. Forget the BS and the hype train that says, oh, it's sold out. I can't find it anywhere. It's not on the internet. It's not anywhere. Brother, please. Brother, please. And sister, please. You can find anything on the internet, just about. Okay, and so that to me is a big problem. The 8 ranges and the 7 ranges, they irk me, but it doesn't really hit my cojones as it does the 8 range. Okay, so that's a problem. Okay, like even Scarlet Witch has an 8 range, and that's stupid. That should not happen. Definitely, and this is the next level of issue. The support is too broken. Magic and Scarlet Witch are way too broken for what they do. Colossus is borderline. And the only reason why Colossus is borderline is because 9 out of 10 players are going to play him like a brick. And 9 out of 10 players are going to pay the price of 175 points. They are not going to pay his lower point value unless they're really trying to jam him into a team. So having that 8 range with a character that has pretty much 2 out of 3 powers of the Holy Trinity of heroclix, that got affected by range, that got rebalanced by range, that we had to pay, serious points to get, a 8 range, a 9 range, a 10 range, perplex or outwit, or prob. And then you're just like, yeah, 100 points. Yeah, you get all this cool stuff with it too. And the chick's hard to kill. And she can be anywhere. And she has a long range. And she has mystics. And, oh yeah, Avengers TA. Enjoy. Now, if this was like me from like 3 years ago, the me from 3 years ago would be giddy. The me from 3 years ago would say, Gen Con contender, I know what I'll be running every week. But the more responsible, like, okay, let's look at caretaking the game. Let's look at what's actually good for the game. Me, the now me, says, this is BS, this is bad, this needs to be looked at. And I hate to say like, oh, she needs to be nerfed, because it's not fundamentally what needs to be nerfed is nerfable, because it's a printed stat. It's the fact that they didn't think this all the way through with all the game balance changes, unless, quote unquote, this was designed, quote unquote, before the new pack and all the errata changes, which I would call shenanigans, because these have pink powers in there and it looks like they're designed for pink powers. So I can't say, but I do think that is bad. Okay, next up is looking at Magic, and mainly the 125, and bringing back, Exhibit C, the teleportation stuff. And yes, it's supposed to be balanced. Like, oh, look, you have a 1/3 chance of allowing a character to attack or do something and do a power action. Okay, that's fine. It's the fact that you have so much free action attack, free action shenanigans in the game that's pointless. It really is pointless. Oh, I punch somebody here. Do that. You teleport me over there. I get to do a free action, whatever. So I think that for it to be balanced, it just says, it has to say to do any action. But that's just me. So again, WizKid's main goal is to get butts and seats so that people go to these events, so that stores buy product, so WizKids gets paid, and the stores potentially can get paid. But I understand that's the design of the hustle. But really, what the design of the hustle is really showing me is that they are out to hustle us and not really caretake for the game that they have. And I know someone might say, like, that's not fair. Show me otherwise. I want some consistency. You come to me and you say, yeah, man, I got off the drugs. I stopped doing alcohol. I don't smoke anymore. I'm getting right. I'm cleansing my body. I'm exercising every day. I'm going down a new path. I found Jesus. Like that moment. Okay. And then the next day, I actually let's not say next day. Let's say, in 3 weeks, I see you out, with a blunt and you're shoving, pot pies down your mouth. No, it just doesn't work. So anyway, That's my frustration. So let's transition out of my my final ranking of the set. My final ranking of the set is a C. It's a C, because if you look at it, if you get both, you're paying $80 for Stupid Chips 2 maps for Iron Man, Thor, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Cyclops, Colossus, Magic, and that's it. And you have to win Cable, and you have to win the Phoenix Force and all that. So yeah, that's a complete waste of money. Complete waste of money. Okay, for the which one is probably strongest, I would have to say Avengers. Just looking at it, having access to Thor and Scarlet Witch is way stronger than Cyclops and Magic. But for potential shenanigans, yeah, Magic she's on top of that. And you might be thinking like, hey, Dark Lord Ghost, why didn't you give any love to Magneto? Magneto is overcosted, and he is not a counter to Thor. He's not. Oh, look. 8 range. 2 targets. So anyway, I digress. So let's move on and wrap this up. Lastly, I'm going to wrap up the show, and we are going to talk about tent poles, and about how tent poles fit into the meta now. And I know some people might actually think like, hey man, tent poles aren't that awesome. Why are you even thinking about them? Why focus on tent poles? Well, for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is after last week, I did some thinking about tent poles, and definitely after my conversation on Hyperion, and how I pretty much said, Hyperion is really broke, and I don't think he belongs in the meta, and a bunch of other things. But I read this comment by a listener who posted up here recently, McConnell Lemire. I hope I said your name right. I didn't butcher it. He says, I don't think Hyperion is broken as Cosmic Spider-Man. Cosmic Spider-Man ignores everything for line of fire, including hand ATA. Hyperion ignores most things, but not all. Cosmic Spider-Man has the ability as a trait, while Hyperion at 200 points has to push to get it. The biggest difference, though, is that Cosmic Spider-Man does not destroy what he shoots through, leaving you very little opportunity to retaliate. If Hyperion shoots through and destroys a wall, you can retaliate. And that's partially true. If he's using hypersonic speed, he can move to a point, shoot, and then continue moving away from that point, thus not leaving you a chance for a direct line of fire in some cases. So I will say that. The other thing is, he brings up like, hey, Cosmic Spider-Man can shoot through all this stuff, and that's what made him a tent pole. It's just, he ignored everything. And sort of with the modern tent poles, and trust me, McConnell Lemire, I'm not trying to harp on you. I'm not trying to dish you or anything like that. I actually do appreciate the analysis and the counterpoint. I think the main issue with me and Hyperion is the fact that in the game now versus, how it was like 3 years ago with the Cosmic Spider-Man arrival, having something like that with improved targeting is way more devastating. And you can even say, like, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago. 5 or 6 years ago, when we had Sue Storm from Secret Invasion that did the exact same thing Cosmic Spider-Man did, except her damage values were horrendously bad. Same for her attack values. Her attack values were like 9s. It just didn't work. But when we look back at the tent pole thing, I think what actually is going on is we are seeing a new dynamic where the tent pole, due to the magical golden ratio, is no longer 200 points and higher. I actually think that a tent pole is a character that has 150 points or higher. I really do. And here's the thing. We can't always just be antiquated and say, oh man, a tent pole was always a character that was 200 points or more. And so that was a tent pole because support was, 50 points, but you got everything. We can't have that mindset anymore. We have to actually look in real time and say, all right, if I'm going to push up one figure above all, then what am I going to get? And then in what point range am I looking at, and what point range is that viable? And I really do think it's that 150 point range and higher. I think that floater range is between 135 and 149. And that's where you're sort of deciding if you want to be a tent pole or not. You're not quite golden ratio material, but you're at the same time, you're not in that beefy, buffy point range of 150. So I want you to think about that and really meditate on that. So as we're going forward, I'm going to break down the two main types of strategies that we're going to see, hopefully coming out of the meta with tent poles. Category A is what I'm going to call classic tent pole, and category B is what I'm going to call neo tent pole BS. Okay, let's look at category A, classic tent pole. In category A, what we're going to see is major attacker and pit crew, like we always saw. Except this time around, the pit crew is going to be very specialized, and the pit crew is going to include a resource. And this is one of the few things that I think is appearing now, and really sort of hits home with the pure fact of I couldn't remember the cheapest perplexer in the game. Is the fact that perplex for modifying your own stats is almost a obsolete concept for tactics. I said almost. I know there are characters that give you like -2 on opponent's attack, and Omen can -2 on your opponent. But for buffing yourself, if you're looking purely at perplex as a means of buffing yourself, then it's almost obsolete. So I really want to have everybody start to think on that. And I know I'm going to get some comments that disagree, and that's fully fine. And I actually would encourage, if hey, what's your dialogue and thought on that concept? The other thing is with our tent poles, with the support element that's coming from our resource dial, we're just filling in whatever the resource dial doesn't give us. So if the resource dial is giving us stat mods, attack mods, and access to probability control, then only thing we need is outwit and support. If the resource dial is, giving us stat mods and certain powers that mods our attack values again, then, what we all only need might be is TK and prob. So as we look, we at first we were in that classic mindset of, okay, I have a tent pole and I have like 5 other guys that are tiny points and they do everything else for me. Instead, what I want us to start thinking is, I have a tent pole and everything else that I put on my team fills in the hole. And their main goal is to buff the tent pole. So that's why I'm going to say classic tent pole mindset, category A. When we move into category B on neo tent pole BS, this is where it gets weird, because we start having characters like 150 point Cyclops show up from AVX. And you might say, well, hey, Dark Logos, you just harped on him and why he's bad and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And that is true. I did say that he was bad and I didn't really like him, but he's one of the best examples of Neo Tempo BS. And here's why. Neo Tempo BS comes from the strategy of the backup is not there to buff the tempo. The backup is there to run interference for the tempo. Oh, wow, it's completely different. And here's why. If you would say, if I would take the combined power of the backup support and I was to turn it into a ray of light, and then I put that ray of light on to one location, and it will burn that one location, or it'll irradiate that one location. That's the classic tempo format. Now imagine if I take that same ray of light and I put it through a prism, and it goes all over the place, and it like creates a discotheque effect. Okay, then yeah, that's pretty much what we're going for in this new Neo tentpole. Because, all right, look at Cyclops, and we're going to look at, let's put the world back on track. And I'm going to have to go to like a Golden Age Cyclops Golden Age game, because that's the only way we can get most of the things that he needs in, realistically. So he'll use leadership and outwit, and he'll use leadership on characters which he shares a keyword with, are considered to have a lower point value. That part doesn't matter. It's the fact that he has leadership and outwit. So that means that I don't have to pack outwit. So that's gone. Okay. So that means that the only thing I need is prob, perplex, and TK, and some sort of shenanigan if I want to. Okay. The next thing that becomes awesome is that, he ignores blocking terrain, and he can make a ranged combat attack when adjacent to an opposing character, which is dumb because it's pretty much double dipping, unless they say you can attack a non-adjacent character. But I don't think that's what they meant. But anyway, so non-adjacent opposing character, that is. Anyway, so going back, he has pretty much most of his dial. He has the ability to do penetrating damage in some form or fashion. Okay, so he's always able to make stuff stick. Not only that, he has the ability to make sure through leadership that the rest of his team has some level of offense. Okay, so the rest of his team is always doing something. So you're not just stuck with, looky here, I have Cyclops and he's doing this, this, and this. It's like, looky here, I have Cyclops and he's doing this, and he allows to take tokens off of this character so that they're able to do that, and this other character is able to do this other thing, and it allows for perpetual motion. So you might say, well, this is the beginning of a swarm team. And I'm like, no. The main hero of this story is still Cyclops. He's still the OG, sitting on top with the optic blast goodness. But what's going on is when I have those other uses of, perplex, or uses of TK, or uses of a shenanigan, whatever it may be, I now start directing my opponent's attention away from Cyclops. Now they can't just unilaterally like boom blast Cyclops. It's just like, oh shoot, I shot Cyclops, then he got surrounded by barrier, and then he ran back, and then he ran to Aldrich Killian. Aldrich Killian healed him. And it's like, that was frustrating. And then Aldrich Killian took away my ATAs, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So like you're providing layer upon layer of frustration to your opponent. And with this concept really was mainly birthed out of Book of the Skull, and how the Book of the Skull could make anyone a major leaguer in the attack values category. Whereas before you would have to invest 2 to 3 perplexes to get someone there. Now you don't. So anyway, I'm hoping that this concept of Neo Tentpole really starts to sink in, and that we don't have to play tentpoles like we've always played tentpoles, and we don't have to think that automatically if we have 4 characters on the team that we're playing Swarm. And that's my concern. But what I do think is, between classic tentpole and Swarm, this new Neo tentpole is coming out, and that's what's shaping up in the meta. And I think one of the prime candidates for this Neo tentpole, and I know he still operates in the golden ratio, is Ironmonger 2.0. I have much love for that piece. Like it is really, really strong. It is really strong. Like every time I look at him, I'm like, man, I gotta find a way to find him. Like just for everything that he does, it's really good. So, and the main reason is that he has that you're an imitator, not an innovator, and good stats. And just the fact is, like, if an opposing carrier within range and line of fire can use Outwit or Perplex, Iron Monitor 2.0 can use that power until your next turn. This power can't be countered. So he has a 7 range Outwit or Perplex, which is really good. It's above par. What you have done right there is say, hey, guess what, guys? If my opponent has Outwit, I have Outwit. My opponent has Perplex, I have Perplex. Does that mean that I don't need to have Outwit or Perplex? No, but it definitely means that I really don't need to have Outwit. Because if my opponent has Outwit, I have Outwit, and I'm going to use that to shut down his Outwit. And then no one has Outwit. So, anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the show. Happy late Thanksgiving to all my American friends out there and listeners. One more piece of pie for the road for me. Mama pie. Yeah, that's good. Anyway, while you hear me chew and digest pecan pie, I invite you to subscribe if you so choose. It's sort of helpful, so feel free. Also, if you so choose, follow me on Twitter. You would find out that my show got erased. So yeah, and that's at Start Over Pod. It came from outer space. Made me 2 chickens, a partridge, and a pear tree. And then we ate pecan pie together. I see it dancing on my plate now. If you got comments for me, interesting questions you have for me, email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, brothers and sisters out there. So definitely tell me what's your Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, pagan night festival, heroclix wish. Let me know what you're gonna be doing. What do you want for the holiday season for your heroclix? What do you really desire most? Is it Hyperion? Is it Vampire Jubilee? Is it the Justice League team base? Let me know. All right, last but not least, check out the blog, startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. You want to go there, you want to donate to the show. The PayPal little thing is there. All proceeds go toward making the show better. And giveaways. Lots of giveaways. Also, I have posted up a blog post talking about flexibility. So check that out. I am going to try to write some more. So, yay. All right. That is it. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate you all. 'Tis the season to be thankful, and I am thankful for you. Because without you all, I would not be able to be the host of the first podcast promotion for the first major paid heroclix tournament. And to put it lightly, I am your Don King for Realms Open Championship. Minus the hair, mind you. Minus the hair. So, yeah, I definitely appreciate you guys. It's been a long 3 years in podcasting. I never really thought of it like that. That I've been doing this gig for about 3 years. And staying consistent. Hopefully upping in quality. Because I know if y'all look at some of them old shows and listen to it now, you'd be like, dang it, man, he came up. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime. And then go get another plate of turkey.
I'm into comic books, figures on the wall. She's into looking good, Vicky C's got a law. And she loves my flaws, yeah, she's not ashamed. Jane. I'm a Peter Parker, she's my Mary Jane. 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 I'm a Peter Parker, she's my Mary Jane.
I'm a big nerd around her, but she's cool around me. Never knew how she found me. Electric, but she grounds me. And she loves my flaws, she accepts them all. When the darkness comes, I will get the call.
I will